All right. The rest of this packet is all solving multi-step equations. On the back side, we're getting into situations where I have x on both sides of my equation or a variable on both sides of my equation. So my first step for this solving these is to move my variables to the same side of the equal sign. In order to do this, I'm going to subtract the smaller variable. So if I have 5a and 4a, I'm going to subtract 4a, getting rid of it from this side, and essentially moving it to the other side of my equal sign, minus 4a. So 5a minus 4a, I'm left with 1a. And everything else in that equal sign, everything else is going to come straight down. I'm going to have the negative 3. This is a positive 1a, so I'm putting a plus sign, and my negative 10 is going to be on this side of my equation. After that, I'm going to start using my inverse operations to solve for a, just like what you were doing on the inside of this packet. I am doing my inverse operations. So I have to think about what numbers are on the side with a, and how do I get rid of them. Negative 3, the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. That way these 3's cancel. I'm left with 1a equals negative 7. And lastly, after I do that, I'm going to divide by 1. That way I get a by itself. And I get a equals negative 7. Sometimes I don't have two positive numbers on the same side. I have negative 16 plus 3 equals negative 8 minus 5n. My smaller number here is actually going to be the negative variable. So the other way that I can move variables to the same side is by adding the negative variable. So if I have 3n and negative 5n, I'm going to add 5n. That way these n's cancel out, and I move all of my n's to the other side of my equal sign, adding 5n. And so I get 8n here, and everything's going to come straight down. This negative 16 plus 8n equals negative 8. That negative 8 comes straight down, that negative 16 comes straight down. Now I'm going to do my inverse operations. The opposite of negative 16 is plus 16. And so I have 8n equals negative 8 plus 16 is a positive 8. And now in order to get n by itself, my last step is to divide. Divide by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. After you move all your variables to the same side, you should just have two steps, an addition or a subtraction problem, and then a division problem. This last example, number 3, negative 12 minus 4b equals 4 minus 2b. Again, we have to think about which of those is the smaller variable or the one further down that negative side of my number line. In other words, when I combine them together, I want them to be a positive afterwards. So I'm going to add 4b to both sides. If you add the incorrect one, you'll just end up with a negative number in front of your b, but your final solution will be exactly the same. Either way, I'm adding 4b, so I can cancel out my b's here, and now I've added them all to the other side. Negative 2 plus 4 gives me a positive 2b. And now I'm going to bring everything straight down. This equals 4 and that negative 12. And I am looking on this side with the b, and I'm going to do my inverse operations. We should be adding or subtracting something and then dividing by something. So 4 plus 2b. I'm going to start with this 4, the piece that's furthest away from that b. It's a positive 4, so I'm going to subtract 4. And I'm left with 2b equals negative 16. Negative 12 minus 4 is negative 16. And then my last step is to divide. Divide by 2. Negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. I'm going to start number 4 for you, but then you should be able to finish 4 and 5 on your own. This 7n and this n, we're going to do something called combining like terms. 7n plus another n gives me a total of 8 n's. So this equation I'm going to solve is 3n minus 15 equals 8n. And now I have 1n on both sides. If I want to move them to the same side, I either subtract the smaller variable or add the negative variable. 3n and 8n, my smaller variable is this 3, so let's subtract 3n to both sides. We're left with negative 15 equals 5n. Then you should be able to solve for n as well as solving number 5.